All right, what's up, Math 8? So today we're doing solving equations with rational coefficients. All right, so we're just gonna hop right into it. So just to recall, we talked about this a little bit when we talked about order of operations, but so we're just gonna fill this in together. So we solve equations, we simplify expressions. All right. So remember, equations has the equal sign. Expressions does not necessarily have an equal sign. All right. That's just a quick little thing for you to remember. All right. So now we're going to get into some new information. So the inverse, okay? Inverse means opposite, okay? That's really all I need you to remember for inverse. All right. So make sure you get that written down. Just for the word inverse, that is. All right, so we're going to get into some inverses here. So addition and subtraction. Whoops. Are inverse operations. Okay. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. Okay. So that should be pretty straightforward. Just to give an example with addition and subtraction so that it's kind of easy for you to see. If I have 4 minus 3, okay, that's going to equal 1. Okay, so then if I take that 1 and I do this operation, but I do the inverse or the opposite, so plus 3, that's going to take me back to 4. All right. And that's just an example of what inverse operations are kind of going to look like there. Okay. Coefficients. All right. So a coefficient is a number in front of a variable. All right. So if I have 5x, x is going to be your variable. 5 is going to be your coefficient. All right. So this is your coefficient. And we'll just abbreviate it like that. Okay. 5 is the coefficient, x is the variable. All right, moving on again. I know we're going kind of quick. Reciprocal. This is also sometimes called the multiplicative inverse. I personally will probably not call it the multiplicative inverse for that exact reason right there. It'll just get tied up in my tongue, and that'll be super embarrassing. So yeah, I'm just going to call it the reciprocal. All right, so a reciprocal is when, so for two numbers, when it's multiplied, their product is going to be 1. So an example of this is going to be 1/4 and 4. These are going to be reciprocals, okay? Because if I multiply them, if you were to type in 1/4 times 4 in your calculator, all right, that's going to equal 1, okay? One really good way to tell if something is a reciprocal is if the top and the bottom, if you put them both in fraction form, the top and the bottom will be flipped, right? So these two are the same thing. 1/4 and 4. 4 is the same thing as 4/1. So you just flip the top and the bottom. You're going to get your reciprocal. All right, so moving right along. I know I'm going kind of fast. Just make sure you pause when you need to. Steps for solving equations. So the first step when you solve an equation is going to be to identify the variable. All right. That's going to be pretty clear what the variable is because it's the letter. Okay. So typically it'll be x. It's not always going to be x though. It can really just be any letter. All right. Step 2 is determine the process used with the variable. Okay. So the process, by that I mean, is it addition, is it subtraction, is it multiplication, or is it division? All right. It could also be an exponent. We're not going to worry about that so much here at the beginning though. Okay, we're just going to get started with this stuff. All right. Step 3 is going to be to perform the inverse operation to both sides of the equation or both sides of the equal sign. All right. So whatever you do to one side, you got to do it to both sides. All right. In step 4 is to show cancellation. That is a bad A. We'll try that again. There we go. So step 4 is to show cancellation and solving. All right, so basically that's just showing your work. And obviously I've made it pretty clear that showing your work is really important for this class. Okay, so just a quick note on this. If the coefficient is a fraction, okay, you are going to multiply both sides by its reciprocal, okay? Had to remember how to spell that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go through an example together. So I'm just going to do one right here, okay? And we're just going to walk through the steps. So I'm going to do 1/3 x equals 12. All right, I just came up with that on the spot, so it's a really simple one. You won't have any trouble with it, hopefully. All right, I guess that's not fair. You might, if this is your first time seeing it, which is okay. All right, so step 1, identify the variable. All right, my variable here is x. Okay, I see it. I have identified it. Step 2, determine the process used with the variable. All right, so now I got to see what's being done to the variable. So the x is attached to that 1/3. Remember, anytime there's no sign there, that means multiplication. All right, so the process is multiplication right there. Okay, step 3 is to perform the inverse operation to both sides of the equation or the equals sign. All right, so the process being used is multiplication. So the inverse of multiplication is division. Okay. Now this is where you're going to want to go ahead and remember this note right here. Okay. Because if you try to do division by 1/3, it's just going to get pretty messy. All right. So you want to notice the coefficient is a fraction. So the coefficient, remember, is whatever's in front of the x, all right, or attached to the front of the x, okay, and you're going to multiply both sides by its reciprocal. All right, so the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3/1. That's the same as just 3. All right, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3, and then I'm going to solve that out. So those two 3's canceled. So now I'm left with x equals whatever's on this side. So 36. All right. That there is all of the cancellation and solving that I need to see. All right, so crossing out those 3's will be all the cancellation I need to see. Having that 12 attached to that 3 is all the multiplication and solving that I need to see. All right, so we're going to do another quick example. This time it's not going to have a fraction. Okay, so we're going to do x minus 4 equals 4. All right, so step 1, identify the variable. Again, it's x. Step 2, determine the process used with the variable. This time we've got subtraction. All right, you have that x minus 4, so subtraction is now your process being used with the variable. Okay. Step 3, perform the inverse operation to both sides. Okay, the inverse of subtraction is addition, so I'm going to add this 4 to both sides. All right, so I'm going to do plus 4 here and plus 4 here. All right, last step, step 4, show cancellation in solving. All right, so to show cancellation, boom, I showed cancellation. Now I've got x left on this side. Then I'm going to solve on this side. 4 plus 4 is 8. So I'm left with x equals 8. And then you're done. So once you get the hang of it, really guys, it's pretty simple. If you just practice, I think you'll have a lot of fun with this one. I think it's kind of a fun math concept in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do these last 2 examples for you again, just so you get another opportunity to see them. Okay, and then I want you to practice on your own. Okay, so first example is d minus 34 equals 92. Okay, so my variable is d. The operation being done is subtraction, so I'm going to add to both sides. So I've got plus 34 and plus 34. All right. I'm going to show my cancellation. So negative 34 plus 34 is 0. So I'm left with D over here. And that will equal 92 plus 34, which is going to be 126. All right. And then you're done with that example. The second example, you've got 3/4 F equals 15. All right. So identify the variable, that's F. Identify the operation, that's multiplication. Okay. Then you got to do the inverse operation. Again, this is where you want to see that note, where if you've got a fraction like 3/4, you're going to want to multiply by the reciprocal. All right. So I'm going to multiply both sides here by the reciprocal of 3/4. So I'm going to flip that fraction over. It's 4/3. Okay. So now I can multiply both sides there. 4/3 times 3/4 is 1, right? Because those two cancel, those two cancel. So I'm left with F on this side. Okay, this is where it gets tricky. You might want to put it into your calculator, but you don't have to. Okay, I know that 15 times 4 is 60, and then 60 divided by this 3 is going to be 20. All right, so F equals 20. All right, the practice ones. There's 3 practice problems. I want you to do all 3 of these on your own. Okay, so take a chance to pause and write down the first 2 and write down the equation for the third one as well. But pause the video here just so that you can look at each problem and solve it on your own sheet of paper and in your notes. All right. You should have had a chance to pause on 1 and 2 now, so I'm going to scroll down. And then these are your 5 answer choices, A, B, C, D, E, for number 3. All right. So solve those, and I will see you guys in class.